Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Conan the Barbarian, issue number 0, 1, and 2. Yeah, I'm a little late reading these. Issue number, or can't say number 0, but anyway, issue 0, issue digit 0, came out for Free Comic Book Day, and I read it, and I loved it. It was beyond belief amazing, but then it was like 2 weeks till issue 1 came out, and I thought, why am I gonna do a review for an issue 0? And I should have. I know I should have. Should have let you guys know how good this was. Issue 1 came out, and then I got backed up seriously with some work. I'll explain that later. But now issue 2 has been out for a week now. A week. I'm finally getting to it. This was amazing. A lot of that's because I just met Zub again at Fan Expo Canada, and I felt really bad going up to him. He knows I do reviews, and I was like, hey, what's up? He's like, have you been reading this stuff? I was like, yeah, I just haven't been reviewing it. Sorry. I mean, it's not like he pays me to do it. It's just I felt bad because it's a freaking good book, and you guys should know it's a really good book. Let's get talking about these books. First, let's talk about who made this book. I love the feeling of this, the old school Marvel, where they're saying the story, the book, is written by grim Jim Zub. The line art is done by ravishing Rob De La Torre. The colors are typically done by Jose Villarrubia, but issue number 2 had some Conan butt in it, and apparently Villarrubia didn't want to color Conan's butt, so he leaves it to devious Dean White. It's usually villainous Jose Villarrubia. And letters are done by Righteous, or is it Riotous? Yeah, it's Riotous. Richard Starkings. Old school, man. And I'm not sure why they're putting editor for Merciless Matt Murray. Well, probably because he's the editor, but it's not the point. I don't know, man. I feel like the best thing to do with these books is just let these guys mostly do. Like, you can hold the bit and bridle, but you give the reins completely to this creative team because they are absolutely killing it. This is the best thing I've ever seen out of Titan Comics, ever. That's right, this is no longer Marvel. It's Titan. And if you liked Conan in Titan Comics, including Conan written by Jim Zub in Titan Comics, well, that's cute. Or excuse me, in Marvel Comics, that's cute. But when you see it in Titan, it changes things incredibly. So published by Hero Signatures in partnership with Titan Comic Books. This is absurdly good. These books have no right being this damn good. I see this first story, this issue 0, this small Free Comic Book Day issue, and I thought to myself, my God, Zub gets Conan better than anybody has gotten Conan since the original movie was made. Actually, the only movie was made. I completely disavow Conan the Destroyer and the Jason Momoa Conan. I disavow the cartoon that came out. I disavow the television series that came out. All that stuff didn't exist as far as I'm concerned. But that first Conan the Barbarian movie, that was freaking amazing. It had no right being that good, and yet there it is. It's one of the best movies ever made. I'll put that against The Godfather any day of the week. Let's go, brah. In this particular case, this is just as good as that. In fact, there are very many similarities to this. This is just as good, and we're going to compare the art in this regard to the original Conan stories that came out in Marvel Comics when Roy Thomas reinvigorated life into not only Marvel Comics, but the Conan property in and of itself. Conan was outselling Spider-Man, I believe, by 4-1 for a while. That's how damn good it was. It was so good. That's the reason why they decided to go with Star Wars and have Star Wars. The actual first appearance of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and all those is in the first 2 issues of Marvel Comics' Star Wars series, which those 2 issues actually dropped before the movie aired. So think about that. There were no posters or anything of Darth Vader out. So you saw Darth Vader the way that that all the people there, Howard Chaykin, I believe it was, originally envisioned based off of little storyboard art and mostly words written. So I say this because if you go back in the day and you look at Roy Thomas's Conan, all of the Conan work that he's doing, including the King Kull, which there were some things in here that reminded me of that, and I'm hoping that Zub gets a team together and starts doing some Kull. It really felt like that. This felt like What if Barry Windsor Smith and Woods were able to be around today? Well, I know I know Woods isn't, but Windsor Smith is. But imagine if they were around today and young enough today, vibrant like they were back then, knowing the current art style that's out, writing in the current art style, drawing in the current art style, drawing in the comic book, instead of using the 4-dot color matrix where Kirby couldn't make Hulk gray anymore. I had to turn him green because the 4-dot color matrix didn't make it easy enough for him to put together Hulk like this. So they said, okay, well, let's just do it in green instead. That'll be easier. Imagine if Windsor Smith and Woods had today's technology to put out this stuff. I think that we'd be seeing what we're seeing from De La Torre and Dean White and Jose Villarrubia. I think that's exactly what we'd be seeing today, because that's what this feels like. This really harkens back to that. This harkens back to those stories. Just in the issue 0, let's get to the individual reviews at this point. Just in issue 0, you get to see a big war where the Aquilonians come up, and it's funny because the Aquilonians, when Conan becomes a king, he becomes the king of Aquilonia, right? The Phoenix on the Sword, all that stuff, the first Conan story, which is a rewrite of a rejected script for a King Kull story. Kull came first. Anyway, I love the idea, back in those Weird Tales comics, I love the idea that the Aquilonians come up to meet him. Now, in the movie, we saw that it was the armies of, was it Stygia? I believe it was the army, I think it would have been the armies of Shem, because it was yeah, I think it was Shem. Anyway, it was James Earl Jones was playing not a typical Conan. It was a King Kull villain. Oh, for crying out loud, why can't I remember the name of this villain? Thulsa Doom. Jeez. Anyway, thanks for that, the brain fart. So he's playing Thulsa Doom, and Thulsa Doom comes up because they're looking for steel, because they're going out trying to conquer. They didn't care about these stupid little tribes up here. They didn't have anything to offer. They just needed steel. They needed more steel, right? So, boom. So, in this particular case, Conan, who's only 16 during the time of issue 0, is out kicking butt and taking names with all the other Sumerians. They ward off this attack, send these guys routed and running for their lives, and then starts walking around looking through the dead bodies for loot, for booty. He's patting everybody down and checking to see what good stuff they have. And this one sword catches his eye. It looks a little bit small in his hands, but maybe it was made that way for a reason. He sees this sword and he loves this, and it's steel. Think about the movie. It's steel that makes him decide to start going down south on his own, as opposed to being enslaved and brought on the south because these guys were looking for steel. So I love the tie that binds these two things together. It's a beautiful thing. Now, Conan, we see some of the glimpses of his future, and issue number 1 is going to start off a whole entire 8 years later. Conan is 24 years old, so he's already had a bunch of adventures. What adventures has he had? Well, what they show at the end of issue 0 is Thak, the big man-ape gorilla thing with the big red cape. They show the God in the Bowl. They show the Temple of the Elephant. They show scenes from these incredible stories, right? Which all these things could have happened in between. The problem is they also show Thalonia, I think her name was, the chick that he marries eventually when he becomes king. He eventually marries, and then together they have Conan II, Conan Jr., if you will. And, holy crap, bang, right there, right? Good stuff. So I don't think that he's gotten married and became king by then. So whatever the thing is, that's pretty much just what happens there. So some things happened in the 8 years in between issue 0 and issue number 1. Issue number 1 is just Conan getting into a fight with this guy who was a mercenary leader, knocks him the hell out, and he stands up, and everybody's like, wow, you're standing up for us, you're standing up for the guys who he led into battle, so, our friends who he got killed, and you don't even know those guys. You're actually a good guy. And they're buying him a drink and, giving them their pay and stuff like that. Anyway, Um, Conan here, everybody hears somebody yelling outside. It's some picked chick, right? A picked warrior S. It's cool that it's pointed out that there aren't too many female warriors amongst these guys, but I also want you to think about this. Conan teams up with this picked warrior, and this relationship that these two have in issue number 1 and 2, they wind up having sex later on, so that part doesn't. But like the teaming up, the arguing, the relationship between these two, a little contentious, a little bit combative, but at the same time full of respect for each other. It reminds me of when King Kull, well, his story, like in the very beginning, how he winds up befriending a Pictish warrior, and their stories, wind up tying together. You should read those old Kull stories if you haven't. I know almost everybody's read Conan at some point, right? Fewer people have read this, and you should. It's so worth it. Kull is amazing. So in this, we're kind of getting a little bit of that also, which I'm pretty sure that Zub did on purpose. And she's like, there's an army coming. Nobody believes her because she's just some savage, right? It turns out this army is actually her people. But she's not with them because these are undead Pictish warriors. And maybe there's a couple other scatterings of people in this, but this is kind of like the Night King in Game of Thrones. That's the feel that I'm actually getting from this. Zub is drawing from so many different incredible sources and making his own incredible story that's going to blow you away. At some point, she sees this sword and she's trying to get the sword back, and he's like, you have to fight me for it. Why is she trying to get it? Because even though it's it seems to be an Aquilonian sword, the Aquilonians certainly had it, and Picts aren't exactly known for making steel weapons, like maybe some iron on occasion, but mostly stone stuff, right? This was a beautifully forged steel sword, but it had Pictish writing on it. If Titan Comics was going to consider actually making some good money off of things, maybe consider doing a like pay by order sword. Because, I mean, besides my lightsabers and a couple little things I got, and this, which I got from getting a black belt, I honestly feel that this would be a really good product to sell. And if it was a reasonable price, I would buy the hell out of this sword. Like I would jump on this. And if they numbered the swords, I would jump on it so quick, trying to get one of those low, like single digit numbers if possible, at least something in the teens. That would actually be really cool. That would genuinely be cool. So I'm just saying, all that being what it is, I'm going to end on this. I feel that the closest I've seen to me, the best modern day character writing, interactions between characters, making people's conversations feel real. The things they're talking about, and especially the way they're talking about, the way they're engaging with each other, nobody does it better than Kelly Thompson, in my opinion. Hands down, nobody does it better. But if I had to pick a second, it would probably be Zub. Just based on the character interactions in these comics alone, in issue number 1 and especially issue number 2. Out of control, good dialogue. So great art, incredible story, fantastic plot, great character interactions, a story that's just a page turner like a mofo. I don't know why you wouldn't want to get this book. I mean, this is a really good book, but if you can't wait for issue number 2 and you really need to get yourself a book, here's my transition. I think you should get my book. Now, if you like fantasy role-playing games, especially Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, you know, nobody does puzzles anymore. Nobody does riddles specifically. And this is a book all about riddles. I will teach you the different types of riddles, how to make riddles. I will teach you where and when to put riddles into a campaign or even a one-shot. And I will even give you more than 300 riddles in here to start with while you're learning that stuff, so you can still continue with your campaigns and incorporate riddles in them. The answers are in the back, so you can actually go through and try and figure out the answers to the riddles on your own, and then just look in the back and correspond the numbers with each other. But book on riddles, and it's in my Kickstarter. It's my first book that I've actually put together in the form of a Kickstarter to try and sell. So I'm just saying, it's there. It exists. Go and support the book. You're going to get a hell of a deal for it. Everybody has been telling me I'm pricing it way too low. That's fine. You're only going to benefit from that. I'm not interested in making a whole lot of money off of this. I'm interested in getting my name out there so that I can start doing more of this, because more on that later. So guys, definitely consider getting this book. Definitely consider getting this book. Get all of these books. All 4 books being mentioned in this particular review. Get all of these books. They are freaking amazing. You're not going to regret any of them. I promise you that. Like the video, watch an ad. Get Puzzle and Perils, a book of riddles. And I will talk to you guys later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.